to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the longest-running Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
We're always in control, and when you say Miami, you're talking to my ball. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Sunday, January the 25th. I am your host, Michael Oliva, flying solo today as the first conference championship game as I start the show. Is at halftime, 7-7, Broncos versus the Patriots. Still 35 seconds left, but probably will be 7-7 at halftime. So I figured perfect time to jump on here and do a show. There's a ton of Miami Dolphins news right now out there. They've made a bunch of hires here in the past 24 to 48 hours, pretty much since Friday night. And I want to give you my thoughts on some of the hires, what might be happening next, and sort of chat about all of that. But before we get to that, as always, let's get to the business stuff out of the way. Let's get to it first. This show is brought to you by Caneswear. Everyone go to the website, caneswear.com, for the best and most affordable Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. If you need a Miami Dolphins hat, hoodie, polo, golf shirt, jersey, something for the home, something for the car, something for the office, go to caneswear.com. Their prices beat all of the big boys, and they are amazing when it comes to Miami Dolphins apparel. They also got stuff for your Miami Hurricanes, your Florida Panthers, the Miami Marlins. What else? Who am I forgetting? The Heat, of course, can't forget the Miami Heat. So caneswear.com, caneswear.com, caneswear.com. They also ship internationally as well. So go to caneswear.com. Also, I want to give a shout out to everyone watching us live at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. Make sure you follow and liked it. And real quick, if you're watching this live on YouTube, do me a favor right now. Do me a favor, smash that like button. Hit that little thumbs up right below. Smash that like button. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Hit the alert notification since you're hitting stuff anyways. Hit that as well. And yes, super chats are open. Send me a super chat. I will read it on the air before the show ends. Give you a shout out. It can be a question for me. It can be a comment. You want to vent. Do you like the new hires that they made to the staff? Do you not like the new hires? Send me a super chat. I'll read it on the air and give you a shout out. Excuse me. All right. So Jeff Hafley, new Miami Dolphins head coach, was on the Joe Rose show on Friday, and he said by the end of this weekend, he was hopeful to have all three coordinators hired for his staff. Well, right now it's Sunday, like I said, about 4:30. He's got two of the three in place as he hired two coordinators. He hired one Friday night. He hired one Saturday afternoon, and we're just waiting on the defensive coordinator spot at this time. And I'm curious about this defensive coordinator hire and if this one might actually go a little bit, and if they might know who they want, but they're not going to announce the hire. Here's why. Because Anthony Weaver is still up for a few head coaching jobs. I don't think he's going to get one, but he's still up I think he's up for the Arizona job. He's up for the Raiders job. He's not up for Cleveland, and he met with the Bills too. So 3 of the 4, I think he interviewed for. If Anthony Weaver gets hired as a head coach, the Miami Dolphins get 2 compensatory picks in round 3, one this year and one in 2027. But if they announce their hire at defensive coordinator, they're not going to get those 2 compensatory picks. So for Miami, they're in this situation here where they might want to drag their feet and not announce who their defensive coordinator hire is. If they have one, they might not have one. But if they do know who they want, they might want to drag their feet here, because if Weaver gets a head coaching job, you're going to get 2 compensatory picks in round 3. Those are pretty valuable. Those are like top 100 picks. It could be just outside the top 100, but those are 2 very good picks in round 3. So if they take their time to wait to see who gets hired by the Bills, who gets hired by Arizona, who gets hired by the Raiders, and if it's not Weaver, then okay, let's make our announcement here for a defensive coordinator. But if it is Weaver, so that's why I don't know how long. Now, they might also take the approach, the hell with the comp picks. We got to get to work. Here's our new coordinator, and Weaver, see ya. Don't really care. So I don't know what their approach is. We're going to, I guess, find out. But he did say, Jeff Hafley, with Joe Rose on Friday, he wanted all 3 hires by the end of the weekend. but he can't control how fast Arizona hires a head coach or the Raiders or the Bills. So we'll see. We'll see. So they hired 2 new coordinators. Like I said, some fans of the Dolphins are too happy. Some fans are too mad, which is typical, I guess. And I am not here to sell you on anyone. If you think these hires are great, awesome. If you hate them, whatever, you do you. I kind of get it as well. I see people in our chat. Some people say great hire. Some people say, I'm not sure about this one. Dolphins fans are all over the map. So if you feel strongly one way or another, I'm not here to try and change anyone's mind. I'm just going to give you stats, rankings, numbers, and like their resumes just to sort of talk about each guy. I'll have my thoughts. I'll have my opinions, but I'm not here to try to convince anyone if you don't like it. Now, one thing. I know there's a lot of fans of the Dolphins who are worried that Jeff Hafley wouldn't be able to put together an experienced staff. And you wanted him to hire coordinators with experience. Well, he's 2 for 2. So one thing you can't knock Jeff Hafley on, even if you don't like the particular people that he hired, he's hired 2 coordinators who have experience in this role. They might not be who you wanted, but he's now hiring guys who need to learn on the job in new roles. The special teams coordinator has been a special teams coordinator. The offensive coordinator has been an offensive coordinator. So he's hiring guys with experience. So that's one check there, which kind of makes me a little happy because, okay, we're not getting like guys wet behind the ears who've never done this job before. So there's that. Let's get into these coordinators. Special teams coordinator Friday night, Chris Tabor. This was announced like an hour after I did that live show Friday afternoon or so. So I'm like, damn, right after I go off the air, they announced this. Chris Tabor is 54 years old. He has served this past year as the Buffalo Bills special teams coordinator. He's previously been a special teams coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, the Chicago Bears, and the Cleveland Browns. He was also the Carolina Panthers interim head coach in 2023 when Frank Reich got fired. And he was also the head coach for one game in Chicago in the COVID year when their head coach had a missing game for COVID. So special teams coordinator for 4 different teams and also a little interim head coaching experience as well. He has a wealth of knowledge and experience here. Just a lot of good experience too, as his special teams units have produced results. Me personally, I like this hire. And here's why I really like this hire. Because Bills fans are mad he's gone. Once they fired Sean McDermott, the Bills, a lot of their fans are like, well, that's fine, but there's a few coaches on the staff we need to keep, and one of them was Chris Tabor. And once it was announced he was going, not that he's left, but he was also going to a team inside the AFC East that they hate, like Miami, Bills fans were really, really, really mad, and that makes me really, really happy. So Chris Tabor, I think, is a home run hire as a special teams coordinator. Honestly, probably the best special teams coordinator we've had since Mike Westhoff, and that's saying a lot, and that's going back many years. He's a very accomplished coach. His resume is second to none. Someone with a ton of experience who's really good at the job. So Chris Tabor is a special teams coordinator. Love that. Love that hire. Love that pick to be the special teams coordinator, and I have no worries with that one. Now, the one that's getting the most attention, Saturday afternoon, I want to say like 4-ish, it was announced that Jeff Hafley is keeping a coach from last year's staff that Mike McDaniel had, as he promoted Miami Dolphins senior passing game coordinator Bobby Slowick to offensive coordinator. And these guys have worked together before. In 2017, Jeff Hafley was the defensive backs coach for the San Francisco 49ers. And that same year, in 2017, Bobby Slowick was a defensive quality control coach. They both work for Kyle Shanahan, and Jeff Hafley loves that Kyle Shanahan style offense. So the fact he was able to hire a guy who's been an offensive coordinator before, who's actually here last year and knows the offensive players, and also is going to run that Kyle Shanahan offense, it checks a lot of boxes, and I understand why Hafley made the hire. I think on this one, the fan base is the most split. You got some fans who are like, why didn't we hire the guy from the Packers, let him call plays? Why didn't we hire this guy who's out there? Why didn't we hire that guy who's out there? Well, Jeff Hafley wanted someone that he worked with before who runs the Kyle Shanahan offense, and I would guess as well has at least a few years of offensive coordinator experience. So there's that. So Slowick was the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans in 2023 and 2024. And it kind of really is a tale of two seasons. Both years, 2023 and 2024, Houston won the AFC South. Both years they won a playoff game. In 2024, in round 2 of the playoffs, they gave Kansas City a fight. They only lost by 9, 23-14 in Kansas City versus Mahomes. So Houston had success the 2 years he called plays for the Houston Texans as their offensive coordinator. Now, 2023 was clearly the better year. That was C.J. Stroud's rookie year. That was the year C.J. Stroud won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Slowick had a hand in that, obviously. I mean, it's up to the player to make the plays, but obviously the coaches, have an impact on it. How much of an impact, how little. I'm always very careful. How much to, give credit to position coaches and also give blame to position coaches and a coordinator as well. But he obviously had a hand in it. So I'm just going to go through some stats real quick. I know it's going to sound like a math course with just a bunch of numbers and rankings. But in 2023, total yards, Houston was ranked 12th, top half of the league. Total points, 14th, top half of the league. Total offense, 23rd. Rushing offense, 23rd. Passing offense, they were ranked 7th, top 10. Scoring offense, because we keep scoring points, 14th, top half of the league. Yards per play, they were ranked 12th, top half of the league. Touchdowns per game, ranked 11th, top half of the league. Points per game, 13th, top half of the league. Third down conversions per game, they were ranked 19th. And explosive plays, which is kind of big in this league nowadays, 14th, top half of the league. So in most of these categories, not rushing offense and not even total offense, but most total yards, points, passing offense, scoring offense, yards per play, touchdowns per game, explosive plays, they're top half of the league. And Houston that year, again, won the AFC South, and they won a playoff game. So pretty good year for Slowick and the offense there. 2024, not as good. Total yards, 22nd. Total points, 19th. Total offense, 19th. Rushing offense, 15th. Passing offense, 21st. Scoring offense, 19th. Pretty much all these stats I'm going to go through. Touchdowns per game, points per game. Bottom half of the league. They're 19, 20, 21, 18th. Bottom half of the league. So 2023, they were ranked top half of the league. 2024, bottom half of the league. And so it's kind of a mixed bag. After the 2023 season, here's what's interesting. Here's why Slowick, even, his career trajectory is really, it just goes to show you, here today, gone tomorrow type of deal. After the 2023 season, which Houston's offense, again, ranked very highly, top half of the league in almost every category. C.J. Stroud, Offensive Rookie of the Year. He was the guy, the hot assistant coach who was probably going to get a head coaching job. He interviewed for the head coaching jobs in Washington, Seattle, Carolina, Tennessee, and Atlanta. 5. Now, he ended up staying in Houston. There's mixed reports here. I don't know the truth. Some reports say he was offered at least one of those jobs as a head coach. He said no because he didn't like the situation. He thought, I'm just being set up to fail. There's other reports saying he was never offered a head coaching job. Either way, he was the hot assistant that everyone wanted to talk to, kind of like Jeff Hafley is now, or kind of like Clint Kubiak is now. Like everyone wants, you're the hot assistant. He was that guy. Then 2024 happened, and it wasn't great. And a little bit of surprise, Houston fired him, but I spoke to someone who covers Houston and why? I mean, it wasn't that bad in 2024. They won the South. They won a playoff game. It wasn't like awful. Yeah, they slipped on offense a little bit. And what I was told was, part of the reason was the offensive line that year was pretty bad, and they felt Slowick, he didn't make any changes to try to help the protection up front to protect Stroud. So that was one. And they also felt, he didn't adapt well to when teams made adjustments and stuff. And plus a little bit of a personality conflict with some other people on the staff. So they just let him go. Now, everyone saw CJ Stroud, like a week ago, play horrible in a playoff game. And then the week prior, he was pretty much just as bad. And this past year, he was really bad. Two things. Stroud in 2023 was amazing, hence Offensive Rookie of the Year. And again, I don't know how much blame or credit goes to a position coach or a coordinator for that, but he regressed from 2023 to 2024. Not a big regression, but a regression nonetheless. And he regressed even more from 2024 to 2025 when Slowick wasn't even there. So I'm not going to blame CJ Stroud's regression since 2023 on Slowick, because for one of the years he wasn't even there. And for the other year, it was a regression, but it wasn't like a huge regression. And again, you got to be careful blaming like one coach on his staff. Sometimes it's just on the player. Sometimes you have like they might be telling the guy, here's what you got to do, and he doesn't listen in one ear out the other, or he might just not be able to execute it, or he just gets worse over time. We saw it with our quarterback. Look at Tua. Look at his regression. Stroud might be the same thing. Maybe he's peaked. So I'm very careful to blame one specific coach on that. Plus, once again, he wasn't there this year. He was in Miami. So I don't know how much credit he deserves for 2023 or how much blame he should get for 2024. It's just, I'm just telling you the facts. Now, this past year, he was once Houston fired him, Mike McDaniel hired him to be senior passing game coordinator. Here's the deal. We know Mike McDaniel wanted total control of his offense, so I have no idea what Slowick's role was this past season as a senior passing game coordinator. And spoiler alert, nobody else does either. We don't know how much of a say Bobby Slowick had in drawing up the game plans or what plays were called or when to do what. Mike McDaniel might have leaned on him for everything, or Mike McDaniel might have ignored him. And plus, you had Frank Smith there as the offensive coordinator. Slowick was third or fourth down on the totem pole on the offensive side of the ball alone. So anyone who says they know, the reason Miami's offense was bad because Bobby Slowick, they have no friggin' clue. And anyone who tries to pin any of the problems of the Miami Dolphins 2025 offense on Bobby Slowick is just being a bad faith actor. They're just playing on your emotions to try and get you worked up. We have no idea how involved Bobby Slowick was, okay, in the 2025 Dolphins offense. It might have been nothing. It might have been significant. Nobody knows. So that's the hire. Again, am I uber excited about that? I mean, it's fine. I don't know. We'll see how he does. And, you know, he's hired two coordinators this far, and they both have experience. And that's and in my book, that's kind of what we needed here. We needed a staff from Hafley. And when I spoke to the Packers insider who I had on the podcast last week, again, great podcast. If you want to know stuff about John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley, listen to the show I did. It was either Monday or Tuesday of this past week with Peter Bukowski, who covers the Packers. He goes, Jeff Hafley has a big Rolodex, outdated term, I know, but you know what a Rolodex is. And he's worked with a lot of people. He knows a lot of people, and he will have no problem putting together an experienced staff. And he's got experience on his staff. And those are just two hires. I got a third one that's even way better than those two. So again, I'm not trying to tell you this is the greatest staff ever or we had 2 home runs. You can feel any way you want, okay? But I'm just telling you, he's hired 2 guys with experience. We'll see how it works out here. We've seen this happen before, though, with previous head coaches. They bring in great assistants and they still lose. So I don't know. This is but I think with Chris Tabor, I don't know how any fan can be upset with that hiring it as a special teams coordinator. That to me is a home run hire at special teams coordinator. The Bobby Slowick one, again, the jury's out. I don't know. We'll see. If he can get back to what Houston was doing in 2023, great. If not, then we're probably in trouble. That's honestly how I feel about it. So we'll see. We will see how this goes. All right. Let me get to one more hire because this one was just announced a few hours ago. The Miami Dolphins hired a position coach, wide receiver coach, Tyke Tolbert. Tyke Tolbert played wide receiver at LSU. He's been an NFL wide receiver coach. Again, the guy's got a wealth of experience. Arizona, the Bills, Carolina, the Broncos, the Giants, Chicago, and Tennessee. For Chicago, he was also their passing game coordinator. He won a Super Bowl ring with the Broncos at Super Bowl 50. And this guy is widely considered one of the NFL's most respected position coaches. Just a wealth of experience. I think it was Ian Rappaport said he's viewed as one of the great teachers in the NFL, someone who can sort of teach young talent and sort of coach them up. So again, someone with a ton of experience, now on Miami staff at the wide receiver coach position. Robert Prince, who was their wide receiver coach this past year, I liked a lot. And he was one of the guys I kind of hope they'd hold on to, but they're replacing him with someone who with an equal resume, if not even slightly better. So can't be upset with the Tyke Tolbert hiring their wide receiver coach. We have a super chat. Look, once again, super chats are open. Be sure to smash that like button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed. Also, hit the little alert bell notification. And if you want to send in super chats, I will share it on the screen like I am right now from our good friend Patrick Mullen. Thank you, Patrick. Sorry, Mike, an extreme outside zone guy who's a leftover from the last regime with a mixed record at OC is -1 confidence votes below clean slate. Well, okay. I mean, it's fair. Not going to say it's not fair. Maybe they shouldn't have kept anyone from this year's past staff. But again, he's got 2 years experience and one of the years was pretty good. So I'm not saying it's a great hire. He might suck, but I'm not going to like hate on it for no reason. It's kind of a wait and see approach. Just like it's a wait and see approach with John Eric Sullivan. It's a wait and see approach with Jeff Hafley. If you're asking me, would I rather have Slowick or a guy who's never called plays before? I'd probably rather have Slowick though. Because again, give me guys with experience in this role. No on-the-job training anymore. We're done with that. Mike McDaniel, when he was an OC in San Francisco for 1 year, he didn't call plays. He comes here, he's calling plays, and he did bad at it. And it got worse over time. He never improved. So, again, I'm not saying I love the Slowick hire. People, two things can be true at the same time. I don't love the Slowick hire, but he has experience, so I'm willing to see where this goes. That's all I'm saying. Wouldn't have been my, just like with head coach, wouldn't have been my top choice, but I understand why he hired him because it's also going to be the same Kyle Shanahan type offense that A, works in the NFL, and B, that Jeff Hafley wanted. So if it makes him comfortable as head coach with his first staff, let's see where it goes. He's going to have to live or die with all these decisions because if they don't work out, Jeff Hafley, here today, gone tomorrow. He ain't going to get to year 4 or 5 of his contract if this stuff doesn't work out. So I get what you're saying, Patrick, but again, you got to wait and see a little bit. We can't crap on everything after a week. And again, super chats are open if you would like to leave them. The Miami Dolphins also made some other hires. They hired Kyle Smith to be their assistant general manager. This is actually a low-key, pretty good hire as well. I know it's the assistant GM. What do they actually do? Blah, blah, blah. But Smith has been he's been with the Atlanta Falcons since 2021. From 2021 to 2022, he was their vice president of player personnel. And from 2023 till this past year, he was the assistant GM. He got his break in the NFL in Washington in 2010 as a scouting intern, then a scout. Then he was the director of college personnel. In 2020 with Washington, he served as the vice president of player personnel before moving on to Atlanta. His father is A.J. Smith. For those who don't know, A.J. Smith is a longtime general manager with the San Diego Chargers. He was the one who drafted Eli Manning and then traded him on the same day of the draft to the Giants for Rivers, that whole thing. A real famous GM who had a lot of success in league. So this is A.J. Smith's son, Kyle Smith. And from all reports, again, it's anyone who tells you they know all the stuff about an assistant GM, again, bad faith actor. But from what I've read up on and stuff, he really was, even though he wasn't the general manager, he was kind of like the right-hand man of the Falcons, general manager here the past few years. And he did play a role in some of the players that they picked that had some success. So Kyle Smith as the Miami Dolphins assistant GM. Defensive let me start over here. Strength and conditioning coach. I know, it's funny. There's been so many injuries for the Miami Dolphins here the past few years. Everyone's like, fire the strength and conditioning coach. Get new people. It's them. It's like, guys, football's a rough sport. If someone runs into your knee in a twist, I don't care who the strength and conditioning coach is, it wouldn't matter. The guy's going to get hurt because his knee got run over by a guy weighing like 300 pounds. But they did bring on someone new. Aaron Wilson, NFL Insider, he's reporting that the Miami Dolphins have brought over Todd Hunt, who's part of the Packers strength and conditioning staff. He wasn't in charge of it, I don't think, but he was on the staff. And I don't know if he is replacing the guy we had, but he's going to be part of our staff here. I'm sure we'll get clarification on this here in the next week or so. But Todd Hunt from the Green Bay Packers is joining Miami Dolphins strength and conditioning staff. Will he run it? I don't know. But we at least brought in some new blood and maybe some new ideas. All right, I got one more topic to go, but before I get to that, real quick, shout out to finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. And also a shout out, once again, YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Defensive coordinator, like I said at the top of the show, could we hire someone by the end of the weekend like Jeff Hafley said he wanted to do? Maybe. I think the Weaver thing might slow this down some. I don't know. But there is a name that we have interviewed for this job. And this came out Saturday morning. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reporting that the Miami Dolphins have interviewed Clint Hurt, and that's with two T's, Hurtt. Clint Hurt, the current Philadelphia Eagles defensive line coach. And they interviewed him for the defensive coordinator position. And once again, like with Chris Tabor, like with Bobby Slowick, Clint Hurt has experience calling plays as a defensive coordinator before. He was the defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks in 2022 and 2023. So if that's where they go for a coordinator, again, it was just an interview. I don't know if that's who they end up ultimately hiring. It could be somebody else. It's someone who has experience and who won't be learning on the job. Hurt is kind of familiar with the area too because he played for the Miami Hurricanes as a defensive tackle, and then he got his start in coaching with the Hurricanes as a grad assistant. Then he went to FIU for a brief stop, and he returned to the Hurricanes as their defensive line coach for 2006 to 2009. In 2014, he went to the NFL as an assistant defensive line coach for the Bears. Then he was promoted to outside linebackers coach. Chicago, went to Seattle. He was the assistant head coach in Seattle and their defensive line coach before he was promoted to defensive coordinator. So I don't know if they're going to hire Clint Hurt, but Jeremy Fowler reported that he met with Jeff Hafley for the coordinator position. Again, if they hire him, that means they hired a special teams coordinator, an offensive coordinator, and a defensive coordinator with prior coordinator experience. If they don't hire him, we'll see who they do hire. We'll talk about that person at that time. But that's a name that met with the Dolphins. And again, this whole Anthony Weaver thing, if Weaver gets a head coaching job, it's going to be in Arizona. I don't see the Raiders hiring him when they're taking a quarterback 1 overall. I think the Raiders are going to be waiting for Clint Kubiak, honestly, once Seattle is all done here. And they can meet with them, I think, tomorrow, honestly, even if they win. But because the time frames of if you're in the Super Bowl, stuff like that, it just becomes weird. And there's like rules around it, which I don't even know all the rules. But I think the Raiders are going to go with an offensive coach. Cleveland, I have no idea what Cleveland's going to do, but it looks like they want the guy. There's 2 young kids. There's one from Jacksonville who's like 30, and one with the Rams who might be 30. I think they want to hire one of those young offensive kids as head coach and then pay Jim Schwartz to be like the head coach as well, but he's just going to be the coordinator on defense. So I don't think he's going to Cleveland, and I don't even think he met with Cleveland, but I could be wrong. He ain't going there. The Bills, I guess there's a chance he goes to the Bills. I think the Bills are going to go with they might go with Phillip Rivers, which blows my mind, but I think in the end it's going to be Joe Brady and Brian Daboll in some capacity. So if Weaver doesn't get the Arizona job, he ain't going to get a head coaching job. But I wouldn't be waiting around forever here for Anthony Weaver either. At some point, Miami's got to have a little self-respect and okay, the comp picks are nice, but this has been going on a little too long, and we got to make our own hires because we got to get our guys to work. So we will see. I mean, I guess there's a chance they could bring Weaver back. I don't know. I doubt it, though, because if Jeff Hafley, if he's going to call the plays, I don't know if Weaver wants to stay and give that up. So I doubt it. I mean, anything's possible, I guess, but I just would find that hard to believe. So we'll see on the defensive coordinator hire. With my luck, as soon as I end the show, they will announce it. And I'm like, I just finished a show that went for 28 minutes. And I went over all the hires. And, of course, they're going to announce this as soon as the show ends. But whenever they do make that hire, I will bop on here with a show talking about that person as well. So that's all for today's show. As always, thank you for listening. We do appreciate you giving us a few moments of your time each and every day. It is not unnoticed. So thank you for tuning in and listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. If you're listening in audio form, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, wherever, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe there as well. Of course, on YouTube, I won't say it again. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com. We got a bunch of great articles up with some new content. This podcast, this upcoming week, I'm working on a few things for some shows, so be on the lookout for that as well. Social media, we're on all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, you name it, at Dolphins Talk. So whatever social media channel you're on, go to our page. Make sure you subscribe and check out the content we put up on social media. Everyone have a great rest of your Sunday. Next time we speak, we'll know who's in the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll talk about that for a little bit. And have a great Sunday. Have a great Monday. If you're in the middle of this big storm, I am. I'm snowed in pretty much. Be safe. Be safe. Try not to leave your house if you don't have to. And if you do drive carefully. And if you do drive, remember, everyone's frustrated, not just you. And we must put an end to highway profanity.